Hi guys, welcome to another training session at Real Estate Steal Deals and Opportunity. Today we're going to talk about land trust as it pertains to real estate. And this is not a very widespread, commonly known subject in real estate. However, in the niche of real estate investing, it is very common. And so some people have heard the term and some people are afraid of it because they're not aware of how it works. I love land trust. We're going to take a little bit of time today and give you a little bit of education on land trust. So what is a land trust and how is it used to buy and own real estate? Let's talk about that. All right, so first of all, a land trust is used as a form of asset protection, although it is not asset protection. And as we get going, I'll explain a little more of why I say it that way. A land trust aids in keeping the ownership information of a property anonymous. So you see this hide here. As I teach you a little more about land trusts, you'll understand why the wealthy use them all the time. Okay, so in other words, you can own property and no one would know you're the owner. So here are the three pieces of a land trust. They include a trustee, beneficiaries, and an asset. Okay, so no matter how big, thick, or intense your land trust document is, these are the three significant pieces of the land trust, and that's really all that matters. Now, when I teach using a land trust, I like to use this limousine here. I like to give visualizations when I teach. I think that it helps me remember topics, and I hope that it helps you as well. So for the purposes of today's lesson, we're going to use this limousine as our land trust, okay? I call it the land trust analogy. So in this scenario, the limousine is our land trust. The passengers are the beneficiaries. They sit inside the dark tinted windows. Nobody sees who they are, but they know that this is their limo, right? And the driver, well, you can see the driver. Well, that's the trustee. The trustee, it drives the limo. That's the person that is seen. That's the name that you hear when you look in public records and you see that a land trust owns this piece of property. You see that it's a trustee's name associated with that land trust, and that's all that you know. There is no documentation recorded that says who is sitting in that back seat. The beneficiaries are the owners. They appoint a trustee to sign the documents, be the face of the trust, and that trustee is simply a trusted person. And it's important that it's a trusted person because this person has the authority to sign the deed away. I mean, they're not supposed to do it without written consent from the beneficiaries, but things happen. So you'll see that it's an attorney, it's a CPA, it's someone trusted in the family, and in some states it could very well be the same person as is sitting in the back seat and is also a beneficiary. Then the assets of that land trust, and there can be multiple assets, are in the trunk, right? So the valuables are in the trunk of the limo. So here you have the beneficiary, the trustee, and the assets, that piece of real estate, for example, all in this limousine. And that's why I like to use the limousine. You've got, everything I need in that picture there to show you how that land trust look and would work. Okay, so let's move on now that you got that understanding of it. So in most cases, a land trust does not get filed or registered with the state. It is not an entity in itself. It does not have an EIN number assigned to it like we do, as people or corporations. We have a social security number or an EIN. A land trust does not. A land trust in most cases does not have a bank account, although it can. And it does not get recorded in public record. That would pretty much wipe out the whole purpose of using the land trust. The purpose of the land trust is to keep the ownership anonymous and to lay out the provisions of that land trust between the parties, okay? So one land trust can own multiple properties and be used to own all types of properties and also be used to wholesale real estate. I use it for all of these reasons, and it's easily duplicated. So once you have a land trust form that you like to use and it works for you, you can duplicate it for all of your assets, all of your ownerships, whatever you'd like to do that you discuss with your attorney. So I hope this is clear. This might be a lesson you might have to listen to a couple of times if you're brand new to the concept of a land trust. I'm a big fan of land trusts because they are great vehicles for investors. Land trusts offer flexibility and creativity to investors and legally assist them in accomplishing joint ventures with partners, owning real estate in their IRAs, and so much more. So we're very creative here, legally creative, and land trusts allow us the opportunity to do a lot of very legal, creative things. One of the reasons that I love land trust and partnering with people doing real estate is that most people say, hey, Joe, this is a great deal we should do together. And then Joe and Bob go form a corporation and they own it together. And so to me, that's married. They are married. So what one does affects the other. If this one makes a financial mess up in their life and files bankruptcy, that has an effect on this entity they've created together. They've pretty much married each other. They have to file tax returns together. Anything the other does affects each other. And that's not necessary if they're just going to do one deal or certain deals together here and there. Yes, they can joint venture, but to own real estate together, I find the best way for us to accomplish it is my corporation that I own solely with my husband and Bob's corporation he owns solely with his wife. We can come together as 50-50 beneficiaries, right? Or 80-20, whatever way we want. And maybe 10 of us could come together. And we don't have to get married. We come in with all of our own corporations, but it's under a land trust. We all together choose a trustee, a person that we trust to drive our land trust, right? And we put the asset or whatever that deal is that we're going to do together in that trunk, and we're all happy in the back seat. And when the property and the project is over, the trustee is directed to sign off. We all receive our profit, close out this land trust, and go on our merry way. And if it worked out well, we'll do another one without having to get married. So if any time during the project someone needs to pull out, it's very easy for him to assign the interest he has to the other beneficiaries and pull out without affecting any of the ownership of that land trust in public records, signing of a deed, or any of those things. So for wholesalers, it's a wonderful way to put a property under contract in the name of a land trust. This works very well for me when I partner with people who do not have a real estate license, yet I need to legally pay them. They become a party to the land trust and they're able to legally be a party to that transaction, which legally gives them an interest in the property and an ability to be paid. There are so many great ways to use a land trust that are very legal. And, the sky's the limit once you understand how to use it. Now, I'm going to give you a disclaimer here because although I'm speaking from a nice comfort level with land trusts here in Florida where we use them a certain way, I'm telling you to consult your real estate attorney about using land trusts in your state. The laws are different in every state for you to accomplish your investing goals. For example, in the state of Florida, the trustee and the beneficiary cannot both be the same person as far as the IRS is concerned. So what does that mean? Well, that means if I personally am the trustee, well, then my corporation can be the beneficiary. Why? Because according to the IRS, personally, I have this social security number, and corporately, I have this EIN number. So it's two different IRS entities that one is the trustee, one is the beneficiary. It gives me 100% control of the deal, right? And that's where our comfort level lies. And we're able to put our land trust together in that form or fashion. So the only drawback to that is that since the trustee is what is seen, right? Because that's the person driving the limo, that name is the name that's seen. So if I wanted to put anonymity with the ownership of this property, I would not put myself or one of my other entities as trustee because you would obviously tie that to me. That's why trustees would maybe be your CPA or one of your real estate attorneys or another relative with a different last name. And that's how people put those together. So you can understand now with a little more of explanation why it's used like asset protection, but it really isn't asset protection. So your protection still becomes insuring that property, right? Because anyone can still sue the property owner. So the reason that it helps with asset protection is because Somebody will go to an attorney. You've heard this before whenever you've been taught asset protection. Oh, own this in a corporation. Okay, well, that's great. Anyone could go online and see that you own the corporation and therefore you own the home. The reason attorneys might like land trusts is because, you know, there's no name that's tied to you, especially if that trustee's name is not a relative or somehow tied to your corporations, right? So if someone went to an attorney's office and said, oh, this person ran into me, you know, and the attorney does a name search, looks up my name. Well, they say, well, gosh, Sharon Restrepo has no assets. If you want to pursue a lawsuit against her, I'm going to need this big retainer because I don't think she's worth going after, you know? And so that's how you hear it taught to you. And in order to find out more about if I had assets, I would actually have to be deposed, where I would come in and under, you know, the law, I would have to disclose that I have these assets and they're under a name of a land trust. So that is another reason why attorneys who help you with asset protection would find in favor of using land trusts. And so those are the attorneys that would give you the advice that you need on how to use it and when to use it. So I hope that that's helped to give you a little foundation on using land trusts, why they're popular in real estate, and why the wealthy use them as well. All right, so for more information about buying properties in South Florida, I welcome you to come to our site or email me to receive our weekly lists. And again, I hope you enjoyed what you learned about land trusts, and I invite you to learn more about real estate investing and other amazing topics online via live interactive video conference classes at learnfromgreen.com. Because when you increase your knowledge, you always increase your income. Thanks for tuning in.